John, I wanted to ask you about the power of choice in the context of the conflict evolution program. What do you think about the phrase that we choose who we want to be in that process of conversational change?
Well, thank you. That's a great question, and I'd like to throw that back at you, actually, because, do you really believe we get to choose freely of who we want to be? Do you think that's a choice that exists in people's minds or in the friends you have, the close circle of friends you have? Do you see, as a majority, 80%, being able to make the choice that they want, when they want, how they want?
I think for the most part, people struggle a lot with that. I know I certainly do. I'm only just beginning myself to learn that I have that power. I think that's what it is. We do have the power, but we don't know that we do. We've forgotten, in a sense. And that makes things difficult. It makes it hard to show up when you've forgotten the possibility that's there.
So thank you, because our seven-step or presuppositions in our gratitude program, in our CE program, is the choice as a sense of moving from fear to possibility. And Marianne Williamson in Course of Miracles would have said, there's only love and fear and love. So in coaching evolution, we do say that choice is about moving from the fear of whatever is holding us back to possibility, to hope. And as you see the extremes of migration today, of peoples, of firestorms, of tsunamis in Japan, of earthquakes in South America, we're seeing that people in trouble and trial need hope. And I can't think of a better word to balance out choice, is that it gives us hope. If we feel we can choose, I think it somehow opens a window of hope. And when we feel really free to choose, when there's more than one choice, I think it's inspiring. And Malcolm Caldwell said in a record on it, and I must get the exact title of the book, but in his latest book he wrote on the idea of choice. If we have a choice A or B, we have the mind of an operating 17-year-old. And I can assure many of our listeners today would know that leads to some interesting grounds. But at three choices of what we might do, we have 125% chance of opportunity, if you like, possibility, if you say our world, of meeting the highest, best outcome that we want. And furthermore, at 4, you're up to 500. At 5 choices, you're up to 600% more opportunity, possibility to really, truly have choice.
So how do we get from a place where we're feeling, okay, a situation's arisen in our lives, and it's difficult. We're finding it difficult. We're having an emotional reaction. How do we get from that place, negative thoughts swimming through our heads, feeling, some anxiety in our chest, whatever it is, to, okay, I have the power to choose how I'm going to feel and what I'm going to think and how this is going to go for myself within my own experience at this point, from that place of discord.
And I think you've nailed it down, is that we're on a mind trip. There's been a lot of pressure with university educations, with a lot of developmental systems that we're in our heads. And as a coach since the 90s, the number of clients come to me that work from solely their heads is increasing. And the truth is, that's one of the reasons that when Alana and I were chatting about this, I said, if you want a wholehearted process, we have to get out of our heads. And that sounds interesting, but we've got a lot of attachment to what we think about. And I said, well, how are you feeling, Monica? How are you feeling? And I get people saying, well, this is what I think. I think I'm feeling this. That's not a feeling, that's their thought about it. Mm-hmm. So the reason we made this a heart-based program is the heart is an interesting energetic system that has a mind of its own, a smaller mind than the brain, but it has 5,000 times the energy of the brain, the mind brain. So we're moving in the mind body back into the body because the heart has the gift of giving us a yes or no. And most women, when I speak to it, in fact, I'll ask you, how do you feel about being intuitive as a woman?
How do I feel about being intuitive as a woman?
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that capacity. Yeah.
And would you say that a lot of your female friends believe that they, as women, are naturally intuitive?
I think some of them, yes. Some of them are a bit also disconnected from that in the way the world is at this time, yeah.
So we have generalized and made that maybe a story about women in the world that they're intuitive. And they're out with a guy on a bad date, they know right away if their husband is story time and television cheating. Because there's this intuitive sense we give women automatically, and there are more men, as you say, and connected, and maybe some women less connected to their intuition, but the heart is a yes or no based on the intuitive energy that it senses in the body. Because you have umpteen zillion, I'm talking zillion sensors going on that the body is recording the environment for our well-being about us. And the heart connects that through an intuitive process which gives you yes or no signals, which we can talk about another time. But if it says yes, if you meet up with someone new and you really like them right off the gate, right off the get-go, there's something energetically in your, even before you've understood their name as Frank or Harry or Bob or Mary, you know you like them. There's just something about them that connects intuitively. You don't really know. Maybe they don't scratch their nose or do something silly you don't like, but for the most part, they're in. And we make that decision before we even consciously can give it words, statistically, provenly. So I think that's the unique gift you give about choice, is that a lot of the choices are happening under the cover of us being aware that the choice is being made inside. And the confusion and conflict starts when we go against what we know intuitively. And that starts that turmoil inside, you know, and perhaps you've met someone that you feel you have to like, and they're like sons of guns. And it came up for me even this week when I had a person that wanted my business, and I had to say, no thank you. I think I'd like to choose someone else. Not that I won't deal with your organization, but the person that you want to look after my services, there is no connection. And when we connect to people, don't we feel better about that we're getting choice? We might get the same choices, but doesn't it feel good when people care?
Of course, yeah.
And so that's about this choice. It's a sense of ourselves that we're safe, we can be vulnerable, we can be real, and there's a sense of connection that's important, that we feel acknowledged and heard and understood when people really care enough to listen to us. So I think that all of those things are fostering bits of fertilizer and water and sun and air for our choice to evolve. It's like watering a garden, the garden of choice. And maybe your garden's flowers, maybe mine's fresh tomatoes this time of year. The strawberries are coming up, actually. And it's that simple. But just knowing that we have the power to choose based on how our heart says, yes, this is right, no, this is not, and trusting. How do we trust ourselves when there's so much going on out there? So this is the foundational roots of our practice, where we stay curious and we stay positive and we set an intention, a positive intention, for the highest possible outcome that serves our vision and our purpose that we hold, you and I, to be true for ourselves today, now. Not for tomorrow, but today, now. And as our vision evolves, so does our purpose and our opportunity to make choice. We don't hold it static. There's a sense of security, the sense of uncertainty, the sense of not enoughness holds us into the confines of a ball that's almost constrictive. And we can free up. We can relax. We can take authorship for new choices, expanding choices, because our balloon now can expand. Our era of influence expands.
Can I just ask quickly, John, is there something about the 5-stage process that allows us to, are there any parts of particular steps that allow us to tap into that intuitive place where we can make that choice from?
Well, it's the second step. After the story's been told, whatever we tell ourselves, when we step into the observation, we're stepping into the control booth. Seeing clearly, awareness, witnessing our lives from one step outside, so we're not so caught up in the energy, the emotional energy that's kept us almost prisoner in some ways to an idea that might have been perfect 6 years ago, 16 years ago, or 26 years ago. And it no longer serves us. When we took it on, it was right. Today, it's not. So being in the control booth of our lives is that observation. Step 2, we step back. We observe. How do we know it to be true? How do we know it to be really true? What happens if it is true? What happens if it's a bunk? And what would we really want? What's our greatest achievable, highest purposed outcome we could imagine, like Disney? We become players in the Disney World movie of Pixar. We have an intention that we set that allows us to create more choice in that moment. From the control booth, we push the dial up, more choice. We push the dial up, brighter. We push the dial up, more gold dust, more abundance. We push the dials up. And people are magically enthralled when 24 hours, an hour, 2 months later this happens, and isn't that interesting that came? They forgot all about the day they programmed it. It just suddenly, it arrived.
That sounds really wonderful.
It worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how arriving into that place within ourselves could really give us space to have a lot more freedom to choose a direction that we actually do want in our lives, which I think is something we all really need at this point in time.
Yeah, and it's hard to be vulnerable. It's risky. It takes a lot of courage. Life is messy. Things don't show up. I wanted a red Ferrari and I got a green Ford, but I mean, we got, kind of thing in the sense that maybe I got a green Ferrari if I'm lucky. But so we sense that what we ask for doesn't come sometimes in the model to which we thought we needed. And sometimes life just gives us what we really need. And we are suffering in this world, which we'll talk about another time, the noise and distraction of TV, of the wants of life. And sometimes it's very hard to go back into what is truly important to us and being okay with that. So I think that's probably the key that I was most proud of, is that we take a chance, as Socrates said, know thyself. And biblically it says, man, know thyself. So thousands of years ago, that truism, which is even more true today, know thyself. And that brings on peace, brings on connection, brings on peace beyond all understanding, actually, and connects us to our spirit, our soul, really.
Thank you. I really appreciate the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.